He has come to bring light into the darkness. He has
Father, we
come.
just thank you for this opportunity, first and foremost, to fellowship with each other, but also to gather around your word. And we thank you for your servant Rico, who's come from the States to share with us the revelation of what he's seeing through your word. And we just thank you now for what you're going to do and what you're going to plant in our hearts. But Father, we just pray that it won't be just knowledge. We just pray our hearts will be stirred into action and to take this out and to build your kingdom as we go from here. So Father, we thank you for what you've already done and what you're going to do through this week. In Yeshua's name, amen.
Yes.
Okay, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Let's talk a little bit about covenant this morning. We got the Torah portion, Vat Hanan, which is the chapters 3 of the book of Deuteronomy all the way to chapter 7. We will cover a lot of the Torah portion. It's my passion. Some of you have been following my website for a while. My passion is the Torah. You know, I love everything, but my passion is the Torah. Understanding the Torah, in my opinion, is understanding the heart of the Creator. And I'm very traditional when it comes to certain things. So before we read, I would like to do the blessing of the Torah portion. Baruch et Adonai HaMevorach, Baruch Adonai HaMevorach לעולם ועד, ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים, ונתן לנו את תורתו, ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה. Blessed be the Lord, the blessed one, blessed is the Lord, the blessed one for all of eternity. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who has selected us from all the peoples and given us his Torah. Blessed are you, O Lord, giver of your Torah. Amen. Alright, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a teaching that I've done that is called Ancient Near Eastern Covenants and Treaties, and I'm going to compare that with this week's Torah portion. I want to have time. I don't want to rush through this one. I think it's imperative that we understand what covenantal language is. Now, if we understand the structure of government in England, we should be able to understand this very easily. Americans, we don't really get it because we don't live under a monarchy. You know, we live under a so-called republic or a democracy. Kind of a monarchy, but anyway. But here in England, you should be, because you've been raised understanding what a sovereign is. And you are the vassals of that sovereign. And it's amazing because I've been wanting to come to England to teach this one. Because when I go certain places that they don't understand the concept of monarchy, there's always a resistance. Only because they're not exposed to that principle because they never lived under it. But the whole Bible is a covenant. And the Bible is so that he has chosen you and I to be his vassals. Think about that for a minute. He has chosen you to be the vassals of the kingdom of the Creator of heaven and earth. And that's what really keeps me in awe of him. And I'm excited about the Torah, and I'm excited and I'm passionate about it. The reason is because I cannot understand for the life of me why it is that he has chosen me as one of his servants to go teach his Torah, his commandments, his statutes, his laws to the nations. And I want to do the best that I know how to please him. You know, very recently you guys had here what is called the Jubilee for your queen. And spent a lot of money giving her honor, recognizing her kingship, recognizing her sovereignty of the nation, even though that maybe her role as the queen is not the same as it was maybe 2,200 years ago. But the power is still recognized. It's quite interesting because no one was arguing about, no, we're going to meet with, we're going to do the Jubilee next year. Think about this. That was the Jubilee, right? She celebrated 50 years in power, right? Did the English people start arguing about when the right reckoning of the Jubilee was? Did people argue, no, we're not going to celebrate it this year, we're going to do it next year? No. Did people determine when they were going to honor the queen? Or was the queen, based on the evidence of how many years, establish that premise of the Jubilee, and everybody showed up because that was the time.
Yes.
That's amazing how we as people will recognize a mere mortal and give her honor for what she's done. But when it comes to the Torah and the covenant of my king, we change his commandments, we change his calendars, we change his name, we change his everything. And I find that disrespectful. I find that who do we think we are to change my king's commandments? He is sovereign, he is good, he is just. But then again, in order to understand this, we have to recognize that the Bible is a legal binding document, and that's where the problem comes. We don't look at Scripture as a binding document. We look at it as a religious document. So we don't really recognize the language of royalty or the language of covenantal. Like the book of Deuteronomy is a covenantal renewal. Right? It's a covenantal renewal. But do you realize what the covenantal renewal rituals were in the ancient world in the time when the Torah was given? You see, this is important. That book that I have right there, I just saw it on the bookshelf. I just saw it on the bookshelf. I went and picked it up because of the name. And I saw the title. So when I start reading, what do I find? I find exactly what I'm talking about right now. Okay, now this is archaeology. This is not now theological. This is not just me saying it. This is archaeology. And the book of Deuteronomy is written in the exact same format as is spoken here. They found the Hittite documents. I'm going to read you from page 64 of the book that my brother has back there. And it says, I'm going to read it to you. I want to give you some history. Is that okay? I'm going to read you this and then go into this. I think it's important. Because then we will really recognize when we read the commandments a little later on, because in this week's Torah portion, it's not only the introduction of the Shema, but also is the introduction, is the renewal of the covenant of Israel, the second generation, before Moses died. And I want to explain to you how ancient Near Eastern covenants were done and how covenantal renewals were done. So if it's okay with you, I don't want to rush through this. We're going to be until 5. Is that okay? I don't want to rush through something so significant that will allow us to really understand the character of our King. Okay? Alright, so check that. I'm going to read this to you. And we'll go from there. Okay, just bear with me. It's just important. Alright? It says, ancient kings were always suspicious of their neighbors. Were they attacked to take over the kingdom? Or were they open to attack by more distant enemies? One way to get a security was to make sure the neighbors were on good terms and did not threaten their frontiers or other interests. Strong kings might make treaties with each other as equals. That is called a parity covenant. You and I have a parity covenant. That's why we call each other brothers and sisters. And I found it so amazing that this article is here and I'm going to talk about the same thing. So you don't think like I'm reinventing the wheel. So you do not think like I'm teaching something crazy. This is archaeology. I spent 4 years studying this. I went back to college just to do this. You know? And it's fascinating that all the evidence is there, and the Bible, when you open it up, it lines up perfectly with archaeology. Or archaeology lines up perfectly with the Bible, with Scripture. I remember one guy in Israel, he says, if your archaeology disagrees with the Bible, check your archaeology. That is so true. It's the only thing the guy said that I liked. So watch this. That's why, if you understand it, what a parity covenant is, then you know why the commandments are written in that particular fashion. You should not covet. You should not commit adultery. You should not, all that stuff. Why the 6 commandments is between you and me, and the first 4 between you and him. Parity. If I know he is my Elohim, and there's no other gods but him, and I don't take his name in vain, and I keep the Shabbat, which is a sign of the covenant, then I'm not going to lie to you, I'm not going to slander you, I'm not going to sleep with your wife, I'm not going to try to murder you, and I don't need to covet anything you have, because we serve the same King.
Yes. Yes.
So you see now, it's vertical relationship and a horizontal relationship. So once you know this relationship here, then this is not a problem. Then you consider yourself with equity. You see what I'm saying? My wife tells me all the time, the reason why I trust you is because you love the Lord with all your heart.
Yes.
As long as you keep loving the Lord like that, I can trust you no matter where you go. You understand? And that's important. The question is, can the Creator trust us? Can He trust you and I to do the work that He called us to do? Or do we just fail when the time gets difficult? That's the question. So watch this. It says, they may persuade or force weaker kings to accept them as their overlords by suzerainty treaties. That's exactly what I'm going to cover today. Suzerain vassal treaties. Among the tablets discovered in the ruin of the Hittite capital city of, I can't pronounce that word, Bogatskoi, something like that, are the texts of at least 24 treaties, some very badly preserved. One of them is the famous agreement between the king Ramses II of Egypt and Hattusil III of the Hittites in the year 1259. This is a parity treaty. They were equal in power, and they had a war for years. They finally got tired of killing each other, and they said, look, this is not going to get anywhere. Let's make a parity covenant. We're equal in power. We're going to respect one another. This is it. And by the way, did you know that all the ancient treaties were done in 3 different languages? Like, for example, in the Hittite language, in the Egyptian language, and the international language of his day, which was the Akkadian. The Akkadian language. Like today, the business language of the world is English. But back a long time ago, it used to be Latin, and then Greek. You follow? Whoever was in power dominated everything. Okay? I just hope that pretty soon it's not Arabic. Can you imagine the way it's going? We need to know who our covenant God is. This is important, you know, and especially you. You know, this is important here in Europe. 32 million of them, and they understand their covenant, and they're willing to die for it. Scary stuff. But I serve the God of Israel. And He is the Lord of hosts. Remember Goliath? You know, that's okay. He died with a little bitty rock. He got knocked out. Okay, my king is greater than theirs. Don't forget that. Now, it says this. In Egypt, the counterpart of this, okay, I'm sorry. It says, this is a parity treaty. Now, listen to this. I'm going to talk about it in a minute. The kings are brothers. That's the language they use. So when you have a parity covenant, then you call each other brothers or sisters. Now you know why you call yourself brothers and sisters in the church. You're only getting my feet. You're only recording my feet. There you go. Because you're going to get home, I know you're going to be looking at my shoes. I'm going like, wait a minute, that makes no sense. All right. The kings are brothers. They will respect each other's interests, not fight each other, help each other against mutual enemies, and send back fugitives. In Egypt, the counterpart of this treaty was carved in hieroglyphs on the wall of the temple of Karnak. The Egyptian version even includes detailed description of silver tablets engraved with the term of the treaty, bearing the royal seal. Okay, what is the seal of our commitment to Messiah? The Spirit becomes the seal. Remember Ephesians chapters 1? And it says, which was shown on it. Man can never rely fully on one another. So formal curses were declared on any future Egyptian and Hittite king who broke the terms of the pact. This is important because you're going to see it here. I call heavens and the earth as a witness against you in this Torah portion. All of the elements of ancient covenant you find in this Torah portion. Have you ever heard this stuff before? Raise your hand. You never heard this stuff before? Raise your hand if you never heard it. Never heard it? Good. Okay, so I'm in the right place. It says, men can never really, you read that? Okay. The gods of both countries will call, listen to this, the gods of both countries will call to witness. So what they would do is, you're king, I'm a king, you're the king of South Africa. I'm the king of Puerto Rico. But you're a greater king than I am. It's bigger, more people, right? So we make a covenant, and we call the God that you serve as a witness, and I call the God that I serve as a witness. We make the treaty. Once we agree on the terms, then you go back to your country, you present the treaty, you read it to everybody, and once everybody agrees with it, then you put the treaty at the footstool of the image of the God that you serve. And I'll do the same. Or I call heaven and earth as a witness, or I call mountains as a witness, or I call people as witnesses of the covenant. This is very important. You see that in the book of Deuteronomy, right? Now, what is really interesting to me is that in the book of Deuteronomy, there's a big controversy right now in America about why Moses put the book of the law in front of the book of the covenant. And they're coming up with this theology that, you don't really have to follow the Torah because the book of Deuteronomy is different than the book of the Torah, and whatever. They never studied ancient Near Eastern covenant or renewals. Because, you see, in the Torah, what did we have on Mount Sinai? 2 tablets of stone, right? Wait a minute, I don't get it. The Creator can create the whole earth just merely out of His own words. But He cannot write 10 words in 1 tablet? Is that logical? Okay, I know you're from England. I know you're reserved. And I completely respect that, trust me. But today, pretend you're Puerto Ricans. Okay, so just say hallelujah once in a while. Go like this, and just be somebody else for today. Is that okay? Because based on how you responded, I know where to go. If you don't help me alive, if not, I'm going to get stuck.
We're thinking about what you say.
I know, but still say something. Alright, so, is this making sense so far?
Yes.
Okay, so in the book of Exodus, it tells us that the commandments were written in the front and the back. So now you have Israel on Mount Sinai. You have the Creator giving the commandments, right? 2 tablets of stone. One for Israel, one for the Lord. And then what happened in chapters 24? The tabernacle was built. And then you put both tablets at inside the Ark of the Covenant, which is where the Lord sits. You see what I mean?
Yes.
The second generation, the covenantal renewal. And I'm going to continue. Remind me, covenantal renewal. Remind me, okay? I'm going to read this. I'm going to get to it, but then I'm going to finish it. So we have Mount Sinai is a suzerain, the great God of Israel. Vassal, Israel is the treaty. The great patriot, and Israel is the client. Remember that language. We're going to cover that tomorrow. It says, suzerainty treaties were more common. In return, listen to this, in return for the protection the great king could offer, the junior king, remember that the Bible says in Exodus 19 that we are a nation of kings, right?
Yes.
Okay, we are a nation of priests and things like that. It says the junior king promised to be loyal, not to have any dealings with the great king's enemies. That's why you're not supposed to have any other gods before you, because that's adultery and that's disloyalty and that's idolatry.
Yeah.
You follow? You see the parallel between the family and the whole relationship here?
Yes.
So if you go and you're married and your wife goes after another man, she's finding another master, Baali. Or if you have a God and you're in a relationship with him, then you find another God and you worship another God, then you find another master. And that's a transgression of the covenant.
Yes.
Then the curses of Deuteronomy 28 will come upon you.
Yes.
It's a legal thing. It's not a religious thing. It's a legal thing. This is legal. And it says, the junior king promised to be loyal, not to have any dealings with the great king's enemies, nor with any foreign ruler unknown to the great king. If the great king went to war, the junior king would supply men for his army, and each year he would send a tax to the great king. It's called tithe.
Yeah.
It's called offerings. Many people in the Hebrew movement no longer wants to give in the kingdom. Well, they come to the feast empty-handed. The Bible says you never come to the feast empty-handed. Why? Because that's the time you bring what? You bring an offering, your thankfulness, your gratefulness for the great king who supplied the work, supplied health, supplied everything for you.
Yes.
Okay, so if you hold back and you're not giving to the king, or you're not helping the homeless, you're not helping the widows, you're not helping the strangers, and then we're not honoring the king the way he deserves to be honored, because he's a righteous king. How will the world know how good the king of Israel is if we, his servants, are not acting according to his character? He expected to send back any refugees from great king's realm, but the great king could keep refugees at his hands. Now watch this. This is important. I'm reading this because I read all this research. I spent the last 4 years, over 500 articles. We have 200 books. I got a team of 5 people helping me with research. I couldn't do it alone. I spent the first 6 weeks doing this for 12 hours a day. Now, am I telling you this because I want you to be impressed with knowledge? No. That's how life-changing it was. It completely said, I told my wife I got to start from scratch. I mean, I'm teaching this from a dogmatic perspective and I'm not getting anywhere. We need to look at it from a legal perspective. Okay? Okay, it says, a careful analysis of these treaties were made in 1931. All followed the same basic pattern. After an introduction, okay, there is an account of events leading up to the making of the treaty. Then the requirements of the treaty, arrangements for the safekeeping and public reading. These are the steps. Okay. We're going to go through this again. Is that it? That's it, the format. The format is, the format of ancient treaties, particularly the Hittite treaties, have the basic 11 characteristics of treaties that include introduction to the speaker, preamble. Look at the book of Deuteronomy. Open your Bibles in the book of Deuteronomy, please. First chapter, first verse. By the way, if you have a King James Bible, a New King James Bible, it says preamble. Look at the title above it. How many Bibles says preamble? Yours says that. Right? This is going to be the study of the Torah portion this morning. And we're not going to rush this one. Okay, so it's Deuteronomy chapters 1. So you have in your Bible, it says preamble, right? And it says, these are the words. In ancient covenants, if you go to ancient Near Eastern text by Pritchard, and you start looking at all the ancient covenants, normally it starts like that. These are the words of the king, the son, the great King Hartulus, the third, or whatever. This. And then he'll go on exactly the same thing that I'm reading you here. They will do the introduction of the speaker. And then they will do the historical prologue. If you go to chapters 1, 2, what does it tell you? It tells you the historical prologue. It tells you the whole history of Israel, how they've gone through the wilderness, and all that stuff is done. Even chapters 3. Is this making sense so far?
Yes.
Okay. Then you have stipulations. That's what we're going to see in chapters 3 and 4, 5, and 6. As a matter of fact, did you know that chapters 11 of the book of Deuteronomy is written complete structure of an ancient Near Eastern treaty? Chapters 11 alone can be a whole treaty in itself. I mean, who was Moses? Who was Moses? Where was he raised? And well, not just Egypt. He was raised at the highest level of learning. He was an ambassador. He was a prince of Egypt. He had to be a commander of the army of Egypt. He had to know minimum 3 or 4 languages, guys. This guy had it going on. He was a really smart guy. I find that fascinating that the Creator positioned Moses in a position of honor so he would learn all the great governmental structures of its time, so when the time to redeem his people, there was a perfect guy equipped to do the work.
Yes.
He knew how to set up a camp. He knew how to lead in a map because he was a soldier. He knew where to take them. He knew how to establish battle. He knew how to do all that stuff. I mean, this is the character of my king. Before the time of trouble, like I told you last night about walking in one place, remember?
Yes.
Same thing, he prepares you. He prepares you before things get difficult.
Hallelujah. Yes.
I mean, proven over and over and over and over again. So why do we live in so much fear?
Yes.
You know, he's done it over. That's what drives me. To know that my King is so faithful and so true to prepare me no matter what. So the next thing is stipulations. Statements concerning the document. Where to put it, what to do. Then you have divine witnesses. Curse and blessings. Okay?
Yes.
I pray this thing works. Can somebody try to help me here, please? Let me go through it. So you have preamble. Read it with me. Identifies the parties involved in the treaty. Prologue. List of deeds already performed by the suzerain on behalf of the vassals. Stipulations. Terms to be upheld by the vassal for the life of the treaty. So this is a suzerain vassal. There are 3 types of covenants. 1. Suzerain vassal treaties. Grant covenants, and parity covenants. Okay? Let me give you the differences. Yeshua, when he renewed the covenant, he is not making a new covenant. He can't. He is renewing the one that was given on Mount Sinai.
Yes.
Okay? So that means that the Torah is still binding. It's eternal. Moses, when he died, by the way, the book of Deuteronomy is because he's getting ready to die. Correct? So the second generation, they are hearing the covenant as a covenantal renewal. If you go to Joshua, chapters 24, you see the same thing. Joshua is going to die. He calls the people, he gets them in Shechem, and then he renews the covenant, and he calls Israel as witnesses of that covenant. That means that if you're a witness, and you don't obey the covenant, then what's going to happen is, when you disobey it, then the Deuteronomy 28 will come upon you, and you will be judged accordingly. All right? This is making sense.
Yes.
All right. So we have divine witnesses to the treaty. Usually includes the deity of both suzerain and the vassal. But there's no other God but the God of Israel. That's why Moses didn't use the name of all the gods. He used heaven and earth as a witness. And he used Israel as witnesses. There's no image. That's why in the Bible you should not swear by the name of other God, only the name of the Lord. Why can't you swear in the name of the Lord? You can't. You can make an oath using the name of Yahweh. But you better say the truth and you better do it. If you use the name of the Lord in an oath, you better follow through on it. Because if you do not follow through on that, then you'll be called a liar and the character of your king will be defamed and dishonored. That's why I don't go around saying the Lord spoke to me, using his name.
Yes.
I'm very careful. Because the moment I hear you say, well, the Lord spoke to me, I need to do this, and that doesn't happen, I'm not listening to you anymore. I can hear you, but I'm not listening. You know the difference?
Yes.
And we have to be careful. Okay? Now, blessings, if the stipulations of the treaty are upheld, and curses if the stipulations of the treaty are not upheld. And then you have a sacrificial meal.
Yeah.
The sacrificial meal is to ratify the covenant. In the ancient world, the only way that you will ratify a covenant, that you make it official, is by the shedding of the blood. That's why it puzzles me in Judaism when they say, well, nowhere does it require blood for anything. I'm thinking they're not studying the ancient world. Okay, so what did Moses do when they came out of the mountain? Right, and he ratified the covenant after the golden calf. The book of Exodus tells us that he took the half of the cup, half of the blood, he sprinkled on the people. Half of the blood, he sprinkled on the altar. Right? Did you know how significant that is according to ancient covenants? That's very significant. Because he used the blood as indexing. The blood becomes indexing. The method in the ancient world, blood represented life. Understand that? So it means that the life of the people is dependent on the power of God on the altar. You speak against the people, is as if you're speaking against God. You speak against the altar, it's as if you're speaking against the Lord, because the altar represents the authority of Yahweh on the earth. That's why the Great Tribulation begins when the anti-Messiah sits in the temple as if he is God. No one can sit in the temple courts. I'm not talking about the holy place. I'm not talking about the Holy of Holies. It's clear that no one can sit in there. But with the court of the Levites, let's say that. Okay, let's say that this area right here is the Holy of Holies. This area right here is the holy place. And right over here, there are 12 steps leading to the great altar. The great altar is like 14 feet high. I don't know how that is in meters or whatever. And 100 feet long. Okay? It's huge. That's the south, that's the north, that's the west, that's the east. And there's the hole right over there, right? Right over there is a hole that have the excess of the blood. The laver is right there. 12 steps are right here. The entrance of the temple is right there. Huge veil right over here, 76 feet high. The temple itself was 8 stories tall. Okay, the second temple, period. And then you have the north. You have where they kill the animals right over there. The Levites are standing right over there, right? Right over there, where my brother is. They're the Dushan. They're right over there singing, waiting for the priest standing on the altar, bring the flag down, so they can still sing in the Psalms of the day. Okay? So this whole thing here, the altar, no one can sit on the area. Only one person. Only one. The Levites were not allowed to wear shoes, and they were not allowed to sit anywhere in the court. Nobody was. Why? You don't sit in the presence of your king. That's why if the Queen of England will walk through here, you will not dare be sitting. You all stand. If you go to court in America, you go to court, you may not be happy about the ticket you got, an infraction. But the moment the bailiff goes, all rise, the judge comes in, you got to stand up. You know? Yeah. This is why it's so significant that we understand protocol. Do you know the protocol how to go and see the Queen of England? If you get a meeting with the Queen of England, don't you have to be trained as to what to do? Yes. Isn't there a protocol? Yes. Like if she's eating, you don't eat until she starts eating. And the moment she stops eating, you don't eat anymore. Yeah. Right? I mean, you just don't approach her like the wife of the President of the United States did, breaking protocol. And Americans, they were going like, oh my gosh, look at her. She is such a, wow, what a nice thing to do. No, she embarrassed America. She didn't follow the protocol. It's embarrassing. You got to know the protocol. You just don't show up and give her a hug. That's not how it works. You got to understand your place. You just don't do that. I mean, even her husband has to walk certain steps behind. Right? I mean, that's her husband. And don't mean disrespect to her. I'm just saying you the protocol that goes. Yes. I mean, remember when her grandson got, the grandson got married? All the people that have to wear the hats? No one can go to the wedding unless you wear a hat. Yes. Now, what I found really fascinating is in America, there was a whole program on TV about which hats were the Nazis. Yes. And I found it so hypocritical. You know why? Because I'm thinking, none of those women would have dared get caught dead with a hat like that anywhere except to go see the Queen. Yes, that's right. So they were only wearing the ugly hats just to please the Queen, right? Yes, yes. Because to her, that's pleasing and that's protocol and that's respectful, right? Yes. And they went out of the way buying ugly, expensive hats. Yes. Just to respect a lady and a queen that is not their queen. How much more my queen? How much more my king? Yes, yes. How much more my Messiah? How much more my Father sitting on the throne? Yes. How come we don't do the things he deserves to honor him as a king? Yes. I mean, you know the protocol of your queen in your country, and I truly respect that. But now we serve the King of the universe. He deserves all respect. Hallelujah. And we don't even know the protocol of the King of Israel. Because if we dare do prayers, that's Jewish. We don't want that. God forbid we want to do something orthodox or something a little bit orthodox or a little bit more observant. No, that's the Jews do that. No, they took that from the temple. That is temple service preserved in the synagogue. Now there are a lot of traditions that have been added on. That's why I spent the last 15 years breaking down which one's from the other. Yeah. We need to know the difference between a ruling and a custom. Yes. And none of us, and we argue, we throw the baby with the bathwater. In the meantime, if Yeshua will walk into the door, let me ask you a question. If Yeshua is a high priest right now, correct?
Yes.
When he returns in the clouds of heaven, riding on a horse, he's going to be our king, right?
Yes.
That means that every knee will bow, because the Father said so.
Yes.
But the Father who sits on the throne still, correct?
Yes.
I mean, this makes sense here in England. Can Prince Charles be the king of England right now?
No.
Why? Exactly. So, can Yeshua right now be the king of the earth? Why? Because the Father's still alive. And he doesn't die. That means that Yeshua will be the king on the earth. But when the Father sent him on the clouds of heaven, riding on a horse. Right now he's doing the role of the high priest. You understand?
Yes.
Okay, so what happens, are you with me? So what happens is that now, when Yeshua returns, he's going to be reigning and ruling on the earth. I agree with it, 100%. Okay, so let me ask you a question. If Yeshua were walking through the door right now, that means he's coming as the king, correct? Would you know how to render honor him? Would you know the protocol of your king? Then we got a problem. Then we got a problem. Can you go and say, oh Jesus, and give him a big hug and a kiss? Don't you dare. You don't approach my king in a disrespectful manner. You better be in awe of my future king. You respect the way you approach him in a manner that's respectful. So let me give you an example of the way I used to pray compared to the way we should pray, in my opinion. Can you imagine Yeshua sitting at the right hand of the Father, taking the shame of crucifixion, so that now you will have access to this beautiful covenant with the Creator and have access to all of the blessings of the kingdom. And then you come to him in this manner. In the name of Jesus, I demand and I decree right now. And I'm going to sow a seed so that you give me 100-fold. And you refuse to obey anything your king says. No, but you don't say it nicely. In the name, I demand it. I claim it. I decree it. Can you imagine Yeshua sitting on the right hand of the Father? Can you imagine our Messiah, who took the shame that when he prayed to his Father, he did it with honor and respect, and he did it with a proper protocol? Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done. He didn't demand it. He even said, my doctrine is not mine, but the Father who sent me. I don't speak out of my own words. And he was always respectful to give honor and respect to his Father. This is the Son. And here were the servants who have been grafted in by grace through faith. And now we're demanding, and we're claiming, and we're screaming at him, and we don't obey any of the commandments. God forbid we mention Sabbath. God forbid we mention the feast. Mind you, the feast is the time when you come and visit your king and bring tribute to your king. Just like you have to pay taxes every year. Do you like paying taxes? No, but you have to. Why? It's the least that you can do to be thankful for the so-called freedoms we still have and possess. But we do that. We pay the taxes to mere mortals that there's some of them in my country, they're getting corrupted and they mismanage the money. Or we just gave Iran a whole bunch of $1 billion of money we don't have. So that they can build a bomb so they can threaten us later. Great deal, guys. Hey, that's what we deserve. You know what's going on right now in America is a reflection on the people. The leaders is a reflection on your people.
Except in England, that part is
It's all the same everywhere. It's going to be the same everywhere. So what happens is that now, Yeshua sitting on the right hand of the Father, and he sees you come from afar. Can you imagine my Messiah? Would he be honored to bring you before the Father in the manner that we addressed him? The manner that we addressed the Father in his name? That was worse. We use his name to disrespect the Father. Imagine that. I can only imagine Yeshua when he sees you walking and he goes, oh, Father, please don't kill him. Can you imagine? Father, please don't kill him. Please have mercy on him. And I can only see my Messiah standing in front of the Father before he's getting ready to zap you out. And then Yeshua says, remember that I died for him. Remember that I took his shame. He just doesn't know, Lord. My Father, he just doesn't know. He'll do exactly what Moses did. Blot me out, but don't kill him. I mean, that's what drives me to learn these things. Or, how would he be pleased if we come before him? And this is what they do in the traditional service, okay? I'm going to explain to you what it is. Traditional Judaism, they do this. They're taking this from the temple, by the way. From the priests, when they will go into the holy place, they will offer the incense. And when they will remove themselves from the presence of the king by the veil, they will take 3 steps back. They will bow down, and then they'll remove themselves. They never turn in the back, and then they turn their backs. You don't turn the back to your king. That's why in Judaism, when you go to the Kotel, to the Western Wall, the ultra-Orthodox, they steps back. Sometimes go all the way back there. You know, you just take a few steps back and you can turn. But many Christians, by the way, who don't quite understand the protocol, they criticize. Oh, look at them. They're just Judaizers. They're doing all that stuff. And they don't realize that that's taken from the temple, from the Levites. So in Judaism, you take 3 steps back, and then you take 3 steps forward. And I remember when I went to Israel for the first time in 2004, and I began to ask questions. I went to a yeshiva for like 2 weeks. And I began to see them in the mincha in the afternoon